Hello everyone. Welcome to the channel. Today's video is on Chapter 3, Section 5, Perception versus Knowledge. It is about how we go from the state of perceiving to that of knowing. This is one of many abstract sections in the course. It does require some extra mental effort to understand it, which I believe is the course's way of getting us to exercise our mental faculties. I hope my unpacking does it justice. A viewing of the videos of the channel will always be helpful. Let's begin. Text. Perception versus knowledge. We have been emphasizing perception and have said very little about cognition as yet, because you are confused about the difference between them. The reason we have dealt so little with cognition is because you must get your perceptions straightened out before you can know anything. To know is to be certain. Uncertainty merely means that you do not know. Knowledge is power because it is certain, and certainty is strength. Perception is merely temporary. It is an attribute of the space-time belief, and is therefore subject to fear or love. Misperceptions produce fear, and true perceptions produce love. Neither produces certainty, because all perception varies. That is why it is not knowledge. Comments. We will now take a dip into some abstract reasoning. Not the most exciting subject, but a very important one. The understanding we gain from this exercise will serve us well as we progress. Not just with the course, but many experiences in life we will encounter. What is the difference between perception and knowledge? Let's first define each. Perception is an interpretation of something, anything, based on input from our physical senses in combination with our ideas, beliefs, emotions, desires, experiences, and will. This makes perception unique to each individual. This may not sound correct at first, but experience shows that multiple individuals can observe the same event and form different opinions, which is why there's uncertainty. Knowledge, on the other hand, is the direct opposite. It does not depend on our physical senses, mental faculties, or interpretations. Its application is universal. It applies to all at all times. There is no uncertainty. It's either you know it or you don't. Where individuality does play a role is how you choose to express your knowing of it. Here's an example to illustrate the difference. I'll keep it simple, the golden rule. It states we should do unto others what we want done to us, or what you give you will receive. Many have different interpretations of this rule, such as, it's optional, a good rule to live by, I'll pick when I want to apply it, or it doesn't really matter. As such, there is inconsistency and uncertainty of it as knowledge. Experience, however, corrects this. After numerous incidents, sometimes painful ones, that forces us to search for answers, we eventually make the connection between what we give and what we receive. Gradually, we begin to see the same with the experiences of others. Uncertainty goes away. We now know for sure. This is the universal process that takes us from uncertainty to certainty, from perception to cognition. Text. True perception is the basis for knowledge, but knowing is the affirmation of truth. All your difficulties ultimately stem from the fact that you do not recognize or know yourselves, each other, or God. To recognize means to know again, implying that you knew before. You can see in many ways, because perception involves different interpretations, and this means that it is not whole. The miracle is a way of perceiving, not of knowing. It is the right answer to a question, and you do not ask questions at all when you know. Comments. Knowledge has a way of simplifying everything. For when you know something, there's no need for questions. You understand how easy it is. You find yourself wondering, why did it take you so long? Or why you had to go through what you did in order to learn it? Even, why isn't there some place where this is taught? Believe it or not, this is part of the plan. Experience is the universal teacher that guarantees all will learn, each at their own pace. There's always an easy way of gaining this knowledge. The course states, all are told, but few choose to listen. Which brings us to what the wise ones say. Those who do not hear will feel. Text. Questioning illusions is the first step in undoing them. The miracle, or the right answer, corrects them. Since perceptions change, their dependence on time is obvious. They are subject to transitory states, and this necessarily implies variability. How you perceive at any given time determines what you do, and action must occur in time. Knowledge is timeless because certainty is not questionable. You know when you have ceased to ask questions. Comments. In the prior video, Miracles as True Perception, we identified a process that helps us identify the true and the beneficial from their opposites. It includes a series of questions designed to reveal their validity and reliability. Questions such as, is it love? Will it lead to peace? Does it serve the greater good? Is it constructive? Productive? Is it something I want to give or receive? No doubt other questions more pertinent to a given situation can and should be asked. It is in our best interests to develop the habit of asking such questions and being as rigorous as we can about it. As with everything, the more we do it, the better we become at it. This is how we identify the numerous misinterpretations, distortions, and lies masquerading as truth. Improve our decision-making process. All necessary on our journey from perception to knowledge. Text. The questioning mind perceives itself in time, and therefore looks for future answers. The unquestioning mind is closed because it believes the future and present will be the same. This establishes an unchanged state, or stasis. It is usually an attempt to counteract an underlying fear that the future will be worse than the present, and this fear inhibits the tendency to question at all. Comments. The present is our moment of power. The only time we have to act or decide on anything is now. Not the past, nor the future, but now. So, we need to focus our mental faculties in the present moment. The better we do at that, the better our experiences will be. Change is one of the guaranteed constants in life. Regardless of how much we try to maintain life a certain way, there will always be change. The seasons change, our bodies change, societies change. It applies to all and everywhere, which makes it knowledge. As with all knowledge, we owe it to ourselves to embrace it. Make it as glorious as we can. Here's something we are slowly becoming aware of. We are directly involved in driving this process. It's one of the abilities given us by our Creator. Text. Visions are the natural perception of the spiritual eye, but they are still corrections. The spiritual eye is symbolic, and therefore not a device for knowing. It is, however, a means of right perception, which brings it into the proper domain of the miracle. Uply speaking, a vision of God is a miracle rather than a revelation. The fact that perception is involved at all removes the experience from the realm of knowledge. That is why visions do not last. Comments. I wish the course wouldn't do this, but it does, which it must. It uses or embraces a concept, then takes it away. The spiritual eye, also known as the inner eye or third eye, is the latest. Granted, it is symbolic, meant to reflect a certain level of growth in our overall enlightenment. Many of us embrace this as a psychic fact. We looked forward to all sorts of signs on the opening of our third eye. The first book I read on the psychic world was The Third Eye by Tuesday Lobsang Rampa. I and many others were avid readers of his books. We thought he was a Tibetan monk with a lot of psychic ability. Turns out he was an Englishman with the gift of writing entertaining books on the occult and paranormal subjects. With these books, as with The Spiritual Eye, the illusion was intriguing and entertaining while it lasted. Text. The Bible instructs you to know yourself, or be certain. Certainty is always of God. When you love someone, you have perceived him as he is, and this makes it possible for you to know him. However, it is not until you recognize him that you can know him. While you ask questions about God, you are clearly implying that you do not know him. Certainty does not require action. When you say that you are acting on the basis of knowledge, you are really confusing perception and cognition. Knowledge brings the mental strength for creative thinking, but not for right doing. Perception, miracles, and doing are closely related. Knowledge is the result of revelation and induces only thought. Perception involves the body even in its most spiritualized form. Knowledge comes from the altar within and is timeless because it is certain. To perceive the truth is not the same as knowing it. Comments. What does the Course mean by to know yourself, or to recognize someone? Let's unpack these words. Whenever I think of myself, two selves come to mind. The first one is a physical body with a personality. With the body, I identify with its attributes of sex, age, race, abilities, limitations, and family members. With the personality, I have likes, dislikes, abilities, strengths, experiences, accomplishments, aspirations, etc. This body and personality gives me a strong sense of my physically oriented self. The second self is a spiritual one. It is not physically oriented as the first. I experience it in dreams. I'm in a discovery state when coming to this self. From the Course and other spiritual materials, I have the understanding that there's a whole lot more to this second self. It is infinite, with unlimited potential, that my physical self is a temporary extension of my spiritual self, whose purpose is to facilitate the learning and development of my spiritual self. I am consciously aware of that, but there's a lot of uncertainty. When I think of other individuals, at times I have to will myself to conscientiously think of them in a similar manner. For those close to me, those that I love, this awareness comes effortlessly. What I know with certainty is, through experience, I've become more aware of myself. I've also learned this knowing can be accelerated by introspection, seeking knowledge from others, and the knowledge contained in materials such as A Course in Miracles and the Seth books of Jane Roberts. This is my understanding of what the Course means when it says know yourself. That I am engaged in a constant expanding process of self-discovery, acknowledging others as being of the same source and on the same path of self-discovery, allows me to recognize or remember them, if my understanding is correct. It means that myself, others, even God, are in a constant state of growth and expansion. This begs these questions. Could you ever fully know yourself, others, even know God? Is this part of the bigger plan? Text. If you attack error in one another, you will hurt yourself. You cannot recognize each other when you attack. Attack is always made on a stranger. You are making him a stranger by misperceiving him, so that you cannot know him. It is because you have made him a stranger that you are afraid of him. Perceive him correctly, so that you can know him. Right perception is necessary before God can communicate directly to his own altars, which he has established in his sons. There he can communicate his certainty, and his knowledge will bring peace without question. God is not a stranger to his sons, and his sons are not strangers to each other. Knowledge preceded both perception and time, and will ultimately replace them. That is the real meaning of the biblical description of God as Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. It also explains the quotation, before Abraham was I am. Perception can and must be stabilized, but knowledge is stable. Fear God and keep his commandments, should read, know God, and accept his certainty. There are no strangers in his creation. To create as he created, you can create only what you know and accept as yours. God knows his children with perfect certainty. He created them by knowing them. He recognized them perfectly. When they do not recognize each other, they do not recognize him. Comments. Little by little, we go from uncertainty to certainty. From perception to cognition, following the universal, tried and true, guaranteed method of trial and error. It is how all ideas, plans, hypotheses, and theories are put through their paces, determined to be true, workable, valid, reliable, or not. The same is true for all of us, members of the sonship, on our path of self-discovery. Recognizing or remembering ourselves, each other, our Creator, all that is, and its knowing. The more we learn of ourselves, the more we learn of others. The more we learn of our Creator, the better we get at it. The more there is to like. Nothing complicated. Nothing beyond any of us. No need for self-sacrifice. Easy to commit yourself to this process. As always, our task is to put these ideas to the test, determine if they are valid and reliable. Thanks again for joining me on this journey. If you've gotten any value from this video, please like, share, and subscribe.